Hello and welcome to the Albion Obsessed podcast. Have you caught your breath from last night? Because I certainly haven't. Another thrilling result in the Euros. Let's bring in Stuart. First time on the podcast, mate. How are you doing?
All good? I'm good. I'm just I didn't have any beers last night, which is unusual for me. But what a result!
I know it's a really weird one because it's like so bad in the groups. Almost went out. We were like 10 seconds away from going out against Slovakia.
Yeah,
I want to say. And now we're in the final. It's just one we don't deserve to be there. But
yeah, it was the group stage were really underwhelming, wasn't they? Yeah, we weren't scoring. We weren't doing anything. It wasn't looking good, but we're slowly coming into it now, and it's better that we're finishing strong rather than starting strong and petering out. So exactly. I'm quite confident we can beat the Spaniards.
Let's hope so. Let's see what our guest thinks today, because we are joined by a very special guest. His second appearance on the Albion Obsessed podcast. We spoke to him on the only 11th episode of this, and now we're 4 seasons in, which is a bit crazy. So, Craig, welcome to the podcast, mate. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. Hope you guys are well.
Good. Yeah, all good. As we say, just about catching our breath from last night. Was you watching the game?
Yeah, I was watching it in the family. It was great to see them obviously and get to the final, which was the main aim at the beginning of the tournament.
Yeah, exactly that. And what do you think the camp's like at the moment? Obviously, lost out in the final against Italy. Do you think there's going to be that added lesson learned, and we could maybe go that one step extra?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the final will give them great experience. I think they'll understand now what it takes to win a final. I think they'll understand the pressures, and obviously they haven't really performed to their best, and they've got to the final. So last night they in patches they were very good, and obviously if they can do that over 90 minutes, I think they'll have a real good chance of winning it.
Yeah, I mean, you won the playoff final with Peterborough. So what does it take to win a high profile final?
Resilience, determination, that belief that you're going to win it, and I think they've got that. I think they've gone through this tournament under a lot of scrutiny, and I think they've stuck together really, really well. I think they have that belief in them that they can win it. They've definitely got the squad that can do it, and they've all proven, even the ones that have played kind of their little part, that they've all want to win it. So obviously it comes down to 90 minutes, maybe plus, on Sunday, and hopefully everyone's celebrating the first trophy for a long time.
Yeah, let's certainly hope so. It's going to be a nerve-wracking evening for sure. Now, Craig,
I've got to ask actually. I'm going a bit off piste here, but you played for Scotland, right?
Yeah.
What's it like representing your country, like putting on that shirt and walking out onto the pitch, and you look over and you're playing like these other internationals? What's it like?
It's amazing. Like you say it now, and it gives me goosebumps. It was just like to pull on the Scotland shirt. Obviously, my nan was Scottish, and so I qualified through her. And it was just an amazing, like, to put on the shirt, to sing the anthem, to represent Scotland was awesome. And it was a proud. Every time I pulled that shirt on, I gave everything I had for the country. So it was amazing. And the England boys will be exactly the same. They'll be pulling that shirt on with pride. And obviously, to if they go and win it on Sunday, it will be an amazing achievement for them and the country.
How did you find out that you'd gotten a call up? Like, who told you?
I got a phone call from Craig Levine, and I think we were on our way to a game or on our way home from a game, and he just rang me up and said, I think someone had pulled out of the squad, and we wanted to come and play against Brazil.
Who was playing for Brazil that day?
Lucio, Thiago Silva, Dani Alves, Neymar. So there was a few good players that were.
Did you get a shirt?
I got Lucio's shirt.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
that's incredible.
I know. Like literally, I came off the last 10 minutes. The full-time whistle went, and I was standing next to him, and I was like, "Do you want my shirt?" And he was like, "Yeah." So he swapped over. He's probably got it on his wall somewhere.
100%, 100%.
But yeah, to represent the country, and obviously my nan was there that day. All my family were there, so I couldn't have been prouder. It was just a special day.
Yeah, we've at the Albion, we've had quite the Scottish contingency. Obviously, now we've got Billy Gilmore playing for Scotland. Probably for me, didn't play as much as I would have liked him to play for Scotland at the Euros. And I thought when he did play, it was clear to see the difference with Billy Gilmore on the pitch. So, what was your take on Scotland's performance and obviously Billy Gilmore at the moment at the Albion?
Yeah, it was disappointing. I think obviously the first game, I think, just was a massive blow to start the tournament like that. I think that kind of rocked them, and then it's kind of, you feel like you're playing catch up over the next couple of games, and they performed pretty well against Switzerland, but obviously they had to go all out really against Hungary to feel like they needed to qualify, and it was just unlucky that they got hit by a sucker punch on the right at the end of the game. So it's great. Obviously they're competing now to get into tournaments, and they're qualifying for tournaments, and kind of the next step now is to get into these tournaments and get out of the group stages. So it's been a great progression from when I played, where we weren't really getting into tournaments, to now they are. So the country is improving, and obviously Billy Gilmore has a big part to play in that. As I said, he looked very composed and assured on the ball when he came in, and given a good quality. And obviously, as you said, for Albion, he's been doing the same, and he's a young lad. He's still got lots of kind of experience to gain. He's got a lot of kind of more growing into the game, so it's only going to be beneficial for him and for Brighton.
Yeah, and I think it was quite heartbreaking the way that Scotland did go out. I mean, they should have been given a penalty, and I think that was a huge bone of contention across a lot of social media and a lot of national news. So, do you think it was maybe just that little bit unfair that Scotland didn't get to that next stage?
Sometimes you get them and sometimes you don't. It's just the way it's like. Obviously, England's won last night. You can look at it and say it wasn't a penalty, and then obviously the Scotland one, you said it could have been a penalty. So they're fine margins. That's what defines winning and losing and going through in these tournaments. And as I said, for Scotland to be competing and to qualifying for these tournaments is amazing. And as I said, the next stage now is to get to these tournaments regularly, and then try and get out of those group stages into the next rounds. And I say it's been a great kind of progression for them. Obviously, Steve Clarke has done a fantastic job for the country, for the team. There's lots of fantastic Scottish players out there now who are all competing to get into that squad. So it's only going to stand the country and the team in good stead.
Yeah, that's very true. Now, Craig, you've caught podcast fever. You're starting one of your own. So tell us a little bit more about that and what you sort of aim to get from it.
Yeah, so I would say I put a message out the other day, just looking kind of for sponsorship to try and start a podcast. I want to talk about strikers now, about what I know. I feel like it's just great to kind of be maybe an educational one, as well as like a funny and humorous one, trying to give people a different perspective of what it takes to be a striker, what they go through, like the highs and lows, the stuff that they did in training, the stuff that they fought when they were going through goal drought. So to give an all-round perspective, a lot of my own, and obviously I'd like to get like the top players in from all different types of levels, just for kids, up and coming players, to understand like what it is, what it takes. You see the goals on a Saturday, you see the movement on the pitch, you see the touch, but why has someone done that? Like why have they fought to be in that position? What were they thinking when they received the ball? So you get a better understanding of like what the striker's doing. So it's just to kind of give a different perspective of the game.
What was when you were, sorry about the bang, by the way, my fingers just fell off. What was your inspiration behind starting off the pod? You know, and that sounds like a great idea, by the way. There's so many players out there that just really want to, you know, they're good developing players. They want to get to the next level. What was your idea about, you know, your inspiration behind getting it all going?
So like, I don't feel there's enough resources like for forwards. Like it's even like I'm doing striker coaching now, and it's like I feel like strikers are seen, if you can score goals, that's it. You don't like that. You're just a striker, and you score goals, and sometimes you don't need to practice because it's just natural, and it's just bringing a different perspective to it, a different idea, showing people what it actually takes to be a forward. Natural goal scorers become natural goal scorers through the way they think and what they do and the practice they put in. So it's been like educational. It's using knowledge I have. It's trying to use the knowledge that all these top players that I hope to get on the podcast have, that allows the younger generation, the players that are trying to progress in the game, to pick and choose what they want to use, and hopefully allows them to progress and then obviously give the information back when they get the chance.
Yeah, one player you played alongside that I'd love to see on there, Craig, would be Adebayo Akinfenwa. I think he would be a great character to have. Obviously, does his own sort of media stuff and podcast stuff as well. I think his knowledge, could, such a big guy, would have had to be that extra bit intelligent, I think, in and around the box to get that edge on defenders who may have been a little bit quicker than him. So, and one thing for me as well that I wanted to bring up, you spoke about goal droughts. One high profile one for the Albion last season was Evan Ferguson, and it was made clear that he was playing through an injury. Had a great first season with us when he came through the season before when we got to Europe. Something that annoys me a lot about the media and social media is that they suddenly think that he's a bad player. They suddenly think that's it. Evan Ferguson's done forever. He's only 20 years old. So what would you say to those people who suddenly just write a player off because they've had one bad season?
It's always the way. It's like everyone builds you up and then they want to break you down. And as football has ebbs and flows, it's like there's not many players in the world that are, perform at the top level every week. Even the top players come in and out of games, drift in and out of games. Haaland this season has not been as good as he was last season, but he's still a world-class player. And you say with Evan Ferguson, he's a fantastic player. Just some seasons you hit everything and it's going in, and some seasons it's a little bit more difficult. So he's got great qualities. He's obviously got a big future ahead of him. It's giving him time. It's giving him a chance to learn his game, to understand when he's going through these goal droughts and maybe not playing so well, like how he changes that, because you don't become a bad player overnight. You don't be like he's got the qualities. It's just sometimes it just doesn't click. Sometimes you say you might be carrying an injury. People don't know there might be things in the background that are going on that no one knows about, but you only see what happens on the Saturday. You don't actually see what his life is like. So there can be lots of different things that are affecting the performances. But as I said, he's a good player. He's young. He's got so many years to improve, so many years to get experience, so many years to kind of understand his own game. So I wouldn't listen to anyone. Like, he knows he can do it. It's just a case of now of being more consistent, obviously at the highest level, that he'll be judged on consistency. If he finds that consistency, he will then obviously do fantastically well for Brighton and obviously put the bigger name teams in the window.
Yeah, I think Evan Ferguson's going to go right the way to the top. He's bullish, he's powerful, he's quick, he's strong in the air. He doesn't get bullied by older, more experienced players. He's older than his years. And I think we're very lucky to have him. And I think the next 2-3 years that we're going to have him, and then, I think you're right, bigger teams are going to come in for him. But form is temporary, class is permanent. I think, we're going to see him really develop next season and the season after, I think.
Yeah, he's just not to become frustrated. As a forward, it's the biggest thing that you get frustrated. Like me, at my time at Albion, I got frustrated because I wasn't scoring goals, and I wanted to be, and I knew I could, and it just wasn't happening. And the more frustrated you get, the kind of the worse it gets in your head, and then you get even more tense, and then you snatch at chances, and it's a snowball effect. So for him, he's just got to relax. He's just got to just like I'd say, go back to the basics of what he was doing in the previous. Understand that sometimes it goes for you and it doesn't, and say he's got all the capabilities to be a top striker.
I think the fresh manager will help as well. Fresh ideas. You can essentially just wipe the slate clean and start again. And I think it was made clear by, I think João Pedro came out at the end of the season when De Zerbi had left and said that De Zerbi was quite literally working the squad, which was extremely thin as it was, to the bone. And I think that there are some contention with Albion fans that maybe we were seeing too many injuries because of how hard De Zerbi was working them. So I think when you've got a more level-headed manager in who can just sort of reset the squad, I think we could see a resurgence from Evan Ferguson, which should be quite good.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Craig, have you got any special guests lined up for your pod?
Not just yet. I'm starting to put messages out and speak to people. As I said, like Akinfenwa would be a fantastic one. I want to kind of have strikers of all different kind of abilities, all different types of like how they play. Obviously, Akifem was big, strong, held the ball up well. I'd love to kind of get Glenn Murray on, Ashley Barnes, like different people I've played with. Try and get some top ex-professionals on as well. So it's just an all-round like view of how everyone sees it and how everyone kind of implemented it into their own game. And as I said, every striker has their own capabilities. Every striker isn't the same size. Isn't the same weight.
Yeah.
Especially like highlighting Akinfenwa, he was too big to play football. He became one of the best target men outside of the Premier League with his capabilities, and he was very I feel he was very it was a shame because people didn't believe he had the ability that he had with his touch, with the way he moved, with how he brought other people in, as you said, Joe, how he thought about the game. And that's what I want to peel out. That's what I want to get out of people and get them to explain how they adjusted the game and made their game so they were successful.
Yeah, a story about Ashley Barnes I've got is that when he left the Albion, I was heartbroken because he was one of my favourites alongside yourself, obviously, Craig. I went into the shop and bought a shirt, especially to get his name printed on the back. And they said, "You do know he's just left, don't you?" Like, yeah, I just want his shirt with his name on the back. So Ashley Barnes gets thumbs up from me. I think he would be a great guest to have on. Just don't ask him about how many points you get for winning in the FA Cup.
Okay, yeah. But I think with Barnsley, what Barnsley was amazing at was buying free kicks and getting fouls and winding defenders up. And those are the little bits that I want to get into. I want people to like there's more than just scoring goals. There's all these little dark arts that like the players do and little tricks of the trade of what they implemented when they were playing. And it's again, you don't see those things. You might just see him falling over, but there's a reason he's falling over. There's a reason he puts his hands like grabs hold of the ball when he falls over, and there's lots of stuff that kind of people need to know about that they might be able to implement in their game that might take them to the next level.
Dark arts. Where do you learn these dark arts? So like through like junior football and stuff, or like
watching older pros. Like for me, coming through non-league, there was lots of it going on, so I got to see loads of it, like they're standing on a defender's toes just before the ball come, or like
that's what my dad told me to do. That
just
before the corner comes in, stand on their foot.
Yeah, so there's just little things you do throughout the game, and again, like it'd be great to highlight these things because then I'd hope people would go and watch games and then try and notice these little things that people are doing. If you watch like the hustle and bustle of corners and stuff, they're all like pinching and pulling each other and poking each other and just trying to put each other off. And these little things can cause a 1 second delay in that defender trying to mark you, and you get in the space and score. So it's let's say bringing these things to highlight to people so they can go, oh, I can implement it in my game that might give me the opportunities.
My favourite one last season was Trent Alexander-Arnold unwrapping Jordan Pickford's glove. That was absolutely brilliant. Was there any Craig Mackail-Smith dark arts going on that we didn't?
I just again, I get kicked and pushed all over the place, so I was always like pinching and pushing, and I just always was just in and around it. Just say anything I could do that kind of just give me that half a second, half a yard. Like say, I'm grabbing hold of the goalie's glove, I'm wrapping it, like just accidentally stepping on someone's toe. Like these little things, say they give you that split second, and as you go up the levels, a split second is everything. So it's just implementing these into your game and being a nuisance, being someone that someone doesn't want to play against you, or it's like, oh my god, he's back again. Like I know I'm going to come off like with bruises from the game. That's how you want to be. That's how you want to put that in the defender's head before the game's even started.
Yeah,
that's amazing. So, where can people find your pod once it gets going?
I don't actually know yet. I'm still learning like what to do. So I'll make sure everything goes out from my social media. I'll drop something to you guys if you'd be able to put it out for me. So once I know exactly when it's up and running and where it's going to be, then I'll make sure all the information goes out to so everyone can find it.
Cool. I'll put it on my socials, 100%.
I'm more than happy to promote that, Craig. And as you're always welcome on this podcast. You'll have to line up for a hat trick episode when
yes.
In. We'll have to send you a match ball. Now,
so one other thing I have to say, otherwise it'll kill me. My little boy is going to do a podcast as well. So which is great, but he wants to do it all around football. So he wants to interview players, but he also wants to interview managers, kit men, like all the people that are kind of in and around football, the ones that you kind of in the background that you don't ever get to see, because they all have amazing stories. They all have amazing insights into the world of football that we don't get to see, or the fans don't get to see. It's a kind of different world in the background. So he really wants to kind of go around interviewing different people and getting their perspective. So hopefully his podcast will kind of like run alongside mine. So I just wanted to put that out there. So
that's gonna be class.
Yeah, definitely. We're more than happy to promote that as well. We had a kit man on here. He was at the Albion probably at the same time you were. Matt Hayward, do you remember?
Yeah. I know that. Yeah,
we had him on, and he has some fantastically hilarious stories. None about you, Craig. Don't worry. He was brilliant. So we can always put you in touch with him and get him on yours, and you can sort of have some stories about his dad on his podcast.
Yeah, clean ones.
Great. Yeah. So lots has happened since we last spoke, Craig. I think Graham Potter was in charge the last time we had you on here. So does it come as any shock as to the journey that the Albion have been on, that we've got into Europe finally and taken that next step?
Not really. When I first joined the club, the kind of the expectation and the drive was to get to the Premier League, and there was a real determination and obviously Tony, probably the best chairman I've ever come across. The backing that he gives the club and his due diligence and everything he does is phenomenal. So I'm not really surprised where the club is, because he's always looking to push the club forward. He's always looking at how to best sustain the club, and he does that amazingly well. So for them to get into Europe was, I wasn't really surprised, and then I knew this season would be, the season just gone was going to be really tough, because going into Europe, or different games, Thursdays, more kind of pressure on the boys traveling around Europe. I knew that it'd probably be a lot tougher this season to kind of maintain and keep pushing up there, because the next thing you have to do is really improve your squad. You really have to kind of bulk your squad out. But these are things that they'll be learning and understanding, and hopefully there'll be another big push this season.
Yeah, 100%.
When you were there, did Tony often come and speak to all of the players? Did he, or
not too much?
Like a back step and let the manager.
Yeah, he'd come in and have a couple of chats, but never kind of encroaching on the manager or kind of being there, like feeling like there was a presence there. He'd come now and then and say a few words, and then he'd be off, and he'd kind of allow the manager and the players to do what they needed to do. So I think for a manager it was great, because he was very hands off and just allowed the manager and the players to get on with their roles. But obviously on the other side of it, he's very hands on, and he's created a fantastic club with amazing kind of infrastructure. That's something that is amazingly kind of well self-sustaining, and I think is envious to everyone else that's looking in, and obviously seeing how well the club's run and the trajectory that is going on.
Yeah, it's built a really good model. Well, I remember when I saw that you had signed, and I looked at the transfer fee, and I thought, bloody hell, because I remember a time when we were like paying £50,000 for Colin Kazim-Richards, and to think that we were paying $2.5 million for a player, and I just couldn't believe it. For me, it was the start of a new chapter. But what pressure did that have on you coming in as an expensive player, and what kind of pressure do you think that is for any player that comes in for a big price tag?
It wasn't anyone else's pressure. It was my pressure that I put on myself. Like I'd scored 35 goals the previous season, and obviously I came in for a big price tag, and I wanted to hit the ground running. I wanted to score loads. I knew I could score loads of goals, and I wanted to score loads of goals. But I think I put way too much emphasis on the price tag, way too much emphasis on the fact that I've got to score these goals. And I think mentally that kind of made it more difficult, because every time I kind of had a game where I didn't score, then it's like, they've paid all this money for me. There's an expectation from the fans. I should be doing this, and that kind of snowballed. For me, I'm quite a deep thinker, so it was always like I was always trying to outthink the problem I had, and it was difficult sometimes when you're not always in control in the game. It's like sometimes you're waiting for chances, sometimes chances are saved, so you can always overthink the problems that are there. And I was one of those, which didn't help. As a striker, it depends how you look at it. As I said, I was an overthinker. Some players, they thrive on that, and they want to show why they're worth that amount of money. So it's just different types of characters will take that differently. But it's obviously it's a great honour to have been that amount of money paid for myself, and obviously the bigger strikers that come in, it's fantastic to see how much the club is spending now on players, and obviously how well they're doing.
Yeah, well, if it's any consolation, Craig, it was worth every penny for that much.
Thank you.
So last time we spoke, we did touch on your injury. I think you was out for about 15 months. And one huge loss last season was Solly March. And now this is his second long term on the treatment table. So what advice would you have for Solly coming off of the back of another sort of long stint out, and how much would that affect him going forward, do you think?
I think it'd be frustrating. I think for him, we say he's had one major injury. This one he's had, he was flying. He was probably in the form of his life. So it is very frustrating when you're doing so well, and something like this, even like mine injury, you can put up with, but when it's another major injury, it's the time frame. So it's mentally hard to kind of put that into perspective and try and deal with it. He'll obviously have great people around him. The club will look after him really well. So it's just kind of a case of him maybe trying to find the root cause of what's going on and why those injuries are happening. As you said, the boys were training really, really hard, and that may have been a factor behind it, because obviously his game is a lot of running, and it's a lot of twisting and turning. Whether he's kind of been fatigued and because of the amount of training that they're doing, that might have caused an issue. But for me, as I've come on to the other side of looking at kind of like the biomechanics and stuff as well, it's maybe trying to look at what's going on, what situation is there that's causing these injuries. But yeah, hopefully he comes back like stronger for it. He's obviously been through it once, so he understands what it takes, and he's obviously come back from it once, and actually he's like been in the form of his life, so he knows his injuries. He can come through them and still perform at the top level. So hopefully he'll have the same confidence when he comes back from this one.
Yeah, definitely. And you would have been at the club when Solly March came through as a youngster as well. I remember his introduction onto the stage. I think it was a pre-season friendly against Norwich, and he scored one of the best goals I've ever seen at the Amex. It was ridiculous. And it was against John Ruddy, who at the time was part of the England setup. So it was quite the introduction. What did you make of Solly when he burst onto the scene?
Oh, he was amazing. He always reminded me of Iron Robin, like the way he ran, the way he moved. He had fantastic balance, great pace. Like his left foot was amazing. So I always knew there was something special about him. And he'd do something good with the club. As I said, like I feel like he just had all the attributes that Iron Robin had, and he's obviously gone more into the wing back role, which maybe suits him because he's got a great engine, and as I said, his pace and his delivery, and he's obviously scored some fantastic goals this season as well as previous season. It's testament to him. He worked really hard. He would stay after training and he'd do extras. So he deserves all the success that he's got.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was a real shame because he had struggled in games a couple of seasons back, and he wasn't showing the best that he could do. And then the last two seasons, he was like absolutely fantastic. And then this big injury came. As a player who's had a serious injury and you're out for so long, is that quite mentally damaging to players? Can they doubt that they can reach the same levels that they were before? Do they have like anxiety or self-doubt basically?
Yeah, I think so. I think like it's again a major injury is hard on the body. Like he's not getting any younger. It does take a real grit and a real belief that you can play back at the highest level. Sometimes it does take it out of you. Like for me, obviously my game was based on pace and power and explosiveness, and rupturing my Achilles kind of took like a big part of that away. So it did affect my game a lot, and I had to change a lot of the way I played. Hopefully for Solly, he'll only know that once he's kind of back running, and obviously you guys as fans will only see that once he comes back playing. You'll notice how much that is, whether that's affected him or whether he's still the player he was previous to the injury. It's very difficult now, I think, as professionals in the game. The game, they're pushed so hard. The body is pushed so right to the limit now. Like literally, they players every game run on the limit of being fit and being injured. The bodies are being pushed so hard, and the recovery time, especially in football, is very, 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 very short. So this body of ours is getting pushed to the limit and not being allowed to recover quick enough. So there's ultimately, as we've seen season after season, the amount of major injuries seems to be getting higher and higher. So there has to be some point where someone takes a step in or has a look at it and redefines how hard players are pushed and how well they recover.
That's interesting to hear, actually, because last season we were in Europe and we were getting all of these injuries, and the squad was down to the bare bones. It's really interesting to hear from a player's perspective, just how hard that fine line between being fit and being injured. And we're down to the bare bones of our squad. And we've got European games and cup games and league games. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah. It takes a toll. It's obviously every division has its own pressures. Obviously, being at the top level, it's not only the training and it's not only the games. It's also like the media stuff that goes around it. It's all the pressures that come with it at the highest level. As you said, with Europe, it's the traveling that they have to do. There is a lot that kind of is entailed in a player's life. And as I said, I think they're pushed so far, so hard on every aspect of it. Ultimately, you're going to get a slight injury here and there, and which is going to lead to more injuries down the line.
Yeah, it's why it really irritates me when people sort of moan about Jurgen Klopp having a moan about all the fixture congestion and the fact that things are being brought forward to 12:30 kickoffs. There's even talks of 11 o'clock kickoffs, which is ridiculous. And all of these things are being arranged around clearly not the player's welfare. So hearing that from a player, again, do you sort of echo what Jurgen Klopp is saying, and that there should be more protection for these players?
I think that they should be looked after. As I said, I think it's not so much about the player and also the fan. It's more about now making money with football. The industry is a money making machine, and ultimately they want to do what's best for their investors and what's going to make the most money for them. So they're not really interested in whether the players are getting injured. They're not really interested in whether the fans can make it or not. It's a money making machine, and I do understand what Jurgen Klopp's saying. I also think there's maybe a responsibility for the clubs as well to see how hard they're pushing their players and say the recovery and stuff like that. But definitely more, like as I said, the football industry is geared toward making profit. So the players' welfare, the fans' welfare, etc., is kind of second to that.
Yeah. Do you think there's ever any pressure from clubs to make sure players come back maybe sooner than they're expected to?
I think everyone is trying to outdo everyone. So if someone's back on the 29th, someone's coming back on the 28th, someone's coming back on the 28th, someone's coming back on the 27th. So it's everyone wants that extra edge. Everyone's looking for that extra bit, that 1%, especially the top level, that 0.5% can make a huge difference. So I feel like they are maybe pushing the players harder and harder to get that more and more out of them. I don't quite know because I'm not in those industries. I'm not around there. Hopefully one day when I'm doing my striker stuff, I can come back and tell you. But it's all about outdoing that next team because the Premier League is so lucrative and you don't want to be out of that division. So you're going to do everything you can to stay in that. And also I think the playing side of it is a little bit of a merry-go-round. It's like if one player's not doing it and he's injured, right, we'll go and spend some money and bring another one in. And if another one's not doing it, and he's injured, we're going to bring another one in. So there's because there's the amount of money that's in there, they just keep, it's just a revolving door. So it's tough. It's getting harder and harder. And I said there's going to be more and more injuries each season, and the players and the fans' welfare, I don't feel are looked after as much.
Yeah, you were always very, as you say, an explosive player. Really quick over the first 5 yards. Like, where did that kind of come from? Is that something you trained at, or were you always like that at school?
I was quick when I was young, but I worked on it because I knew, like, especially my position, I needed to be sharp. I needed to be explosive. I needed to be ready to take the chances. So I used to work a lot in the gym on explosive work. I used to race my dogs. I used to have 2 German Shepherds, and my missus used to kind of stand behind us with a football, and we'd be facing the other way. They'd be sitting down, and she'd boot it as far as she could, and I'd race my German Shepherds to the football.
Did you ever win?
Yeah, I used to beat them a few times. I got wiped out one day. We were running for the ball, and it was a little bit wet, and my dog slipped and absolutely cleaned me out. So it was like being taken out by a centre half. But I love, like, strength and conditioning. I'm qualified PT, so I love all that side of it. So I was always looking for that 1%, how to improve, how to get stronger, how to get sharper, how to get more mobile. So just all these aspects. And they're obviously the top players will have all these guys they're doing it for them and helping them. I don't know how much the industry has changed, because when I was kind of doing it, it was lots of squats and deadlifts and lots of really heavy lifting, which I think now I look back at it, it might have been a bit too much for my body. And so I don't kind of know what aspects they're doing on that side. But it all kind of, you do everything you can to be the best you possibly can, and everyone has their own methods and their own ways of doing it. And it's whatever works for you and whatever's giving you the most success, you do. So yeah, I loved it. I love trying to make myself better.
Yeah, you spoke about getting cleaned out by a centre half. Let's talk about a centre half then. Lewis Dunk, last time you were on the podcast, we were screaming for him to get more England caps. And now, whilst he's not getting any more caps, he's at a major European tournament with England. How proud are you of that 19, 20-year-old Dunky that you played alongside?
Oh, amazing. It's been a hell of a journey for him. Obviously, when I joined the club, this young lad with a big, he had like floppy hair, just very relaxed and jovial, and just didn't have a care in the world. And obviously, he came in and started to kind of progress and get better and stronger. He had good defenders in front of him. He obviously had Adam Alab, Gordon Greer, and he had Matty Upson was there as well. So there were good players in front of him. So he had to bide his time and be really patient. And everyone knew kind of the capabilities he had, and obviously he's kind of proven to everyone how good he is for Brighton, how good he's been in the Premier League. He's been probably one of the best performing defenders over kind of the last 3, 4, 5 years. He's obviously had his opportunity now with England. Maybe not enough opportunity, in my opinion. I think he should have had more game time. But obviously to go to a major tournament and to be in a major final, it's been a hell of a ride for him, and there's still a good few years left in him to hopefully kind of keep progressing with Brighton and hopefully earn more caps and maybe a winner's medal for England on Sunday.
Let's hope so.
Actually, about Dunky, you might be able to offer a little window of knowledge here. Although he hasn't gotten any minutes, how much would he have benefited from just being in and around the mix, like playing with better players, getting different training? What kind of things may you have learned that you could bring back to Brighton with him?
I think he would have just seen what the centre halves are doing. I think he would have looked at all the way everyone conducts themselves. They're all obviously fantastic players who have worked fantastically hard to achieve what they've done, and they'll obviously all have amazing traits in them that have made them the players that they are. So he might take on board little bits and pieces of what they're doing, but Dunky was very much like he just knew what he was about. He knew what he needed to do. He knew how good he was. And the one thing that always stood out for me with Dunky was he never really took football too seriously. And I think that's a fantastic trait to have. I think when he was playing well and when he wasn't playing well, he never really allowed football to dictate his mood. Like he'd always be the same person, win, lose or draw, which I think is an amazing quality. I think that's probably one of the qualities as a footballer you need if you really want to go to the top. You've got to have that ability to kind of take football as it is. It's a fun game and enjoy the highs and enjoy the lows, and that's something that he does fantastically well, which I think has allowed him to progress all the way up into the England team.
I think some people might be shocked at that, Craig, because he got quite a funny red card last season that maybe told you a different message with how he was on the pitch. Was he a different animal on the pitch than he was off then?
Yeah. On the pitch, he would do his job. He'd want to perform, but it's more like off the pitch. And when you're playing, we're all a different person. We all have our persona that we are on the pitch. And then we come off the pitch and we all have our own character when we're off the pitch. And he would go on the pitch and he'd do his job, but he would never allow that to affect him kind of outside of that, which I think, as I said, which is a great trait to have, because he'd just go into the next game almost as a fresh slate, do what he needed to do. And like if he made a mistake, he'd never take that too personally. He would just make sure that he didn't make that mistake again, or if the mistake he did make, he'd make sure it was better the next time. So as I said, all of those traits that he's had has led him to be involved in this England squad.
Yeah, just learning from experiences and moving on with it.
Yeah. Which we all should do in life, but we all kind of get caught up in the good and the bad, and wishing we'd done better and overthinking it, and then overthinking it becomes a problem, and that's kind of how I was during my career. I overthought things because I wanted to be better. I wanted to solve problems. And sometimes that can ruin your brain. Whereas if you just kind of think, I've done it, I've made a mistake, I'll make sure it's better next time, move on, everything becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, take it easy.
That's true. Stuart, are you next?
I think we've actually got some fan questions, actually, which I'm looking forward to. So I'll crack off here.
Yeah.
Well, we've got TaffDog14 on Instagram, and he said, "What's your favourite memory wearing a Brighton shirt?"
That's a really good one. I've got a few. So the first game of the season at the Amex, I think when I first joined, they got into the Amex. We played Doncaster. I think the emotion that day, I think everything that the club had been through up to that point, and obviously to win it in the last minute, I think was just an amazing way to kind of kick off the Brighton at the Amex. An amazing way to kick that season off. So that was one. I think Nottingham Forest away, when Leo scored the header from my cross, I think that was an amazing moment. I always remember that. It feels like yesterday that happened. So those are the two great moments that I have that I remember fondly.
Yeah, definitely. James Forster on Instagram says that goal versus Burnley was special, but was there a close second favourite of yours?
I think the one against Leeds in the Amex, when I received the ball into the box and I turned inside the defender and then played it into the far post. I think that was one of my kind of second closest. I think just because of the turn that I did and the finish, and I think we might have been losing that game, or it was because we had some really great games against Leeds at the Amex. So I think that was close. And then I scored my second one at Burnley as well. The volley from the edge of the box wasn't a bad one either.
Yeah, definitely.
No, I remember all those goals. Just bringing back great memories here. We've got quite an angry Colby here on Instagram. How do you feel about getting absolutely robbed of the 2012 Ballon d'Or?
Me? No, I'm disappointed. I'll have to. It's probably rigged. That's what most of it is. So.
Yeah. Dodging for judges.
Andy Thorpe on Facebook says, "Did you think if you didn't get injured that season that we possibly would have gone up with the form that you were in?"
I think so. I always look back at that, and it was just wrong time. Like in March, kind of, we had a few months left. We were doing fantastically well. I think we missed promotion to the Premier League by 3 points. then obviously to lose to Palace in the playoffs. I think we would have. I feel like you said I was kind of starting to find my feet, scoring some goals. I still hadn't played up front with Leo at that time either, so there was that possibility of us playing games together. So I think if I had stayed fit, it would have happened. But as we know in life, things happen, and you just got to deal with it and get on with it. And like ultimately, Brighton got to the place where I knew they were going to get to, and where they wanted to get to.
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah. I've got. Well, this is an amazing question. I'm really looking forward to hearing the answer. Mark Poston from Facebook wants to know which manager got the best out of you as a player.
At Brighton.
We just go over your career, really.
Yeah.
Oh, who got the best out of me? I'd say Gus changed me as a player. When I came in, I obviously I'd be right on the shoulder, and I'd play high and try and get him behind. Obviously, with Gus' style of play, I had to learn to adjust. So he taught me how to play as a different player and learn different abilities that I needed, which probably helped me after my injury because I wasn't as quick and as able to get in behind. So in hindsight, him kind of playing the way he played allowed me maybe to learn how to extend my career after my injury. But I'd probably say Darren Ferguson, just because I think the way we played suited me so much, and he kind of just played to my strengths. He just wanted players to get the ball into me or in behind. Like we played a real expansive attacking football, and I think that just suited my game massively.
Yeah. Do you think he got a lot from his dad?
I don't know if he did, to be honest. And he's his own man. Like, I don't think he ever wanted to be not associated, but like I don't think he wanted people to see that he was like using his dad to kind of help him. Yeah. I think he just wanted to be his own man. I just think he wanted to run his career, his managerial career, his way, do it his way. He probably gets advice from him, but again, it's like his dad. The issue of having a dad like that is he's the best probably manager that there's ever been. So you're like, how do you beat that? How do you go? And so it's very, very difficult. So he wanted to be his own man. He didn't want to be judged for having kind of Sir Alex on his shoulder and telling him what to do. He wanted to do it himself and make his own mistakes and successes himself. So I think that's why he's been successful in his own right, because he's just done Darren Ferguson. He hasn't allowed maybe Sir Alex Ferguson to have that input.
Yeah, that's very true.
And just before you move on as well, Joe, I'm just curious, what was Gus like if you were losing? But I can sense he got really angry.
Yeah, he wasn't the quiet type. He was very, very loud, very animated. He'd get very frustrated, and I think that's a little bit. I think a lot of kind of ex-professionals who played the game at the highest level, I think they get frustrated with players who maybe don't have as much or had as much ability as them, and I think he'd get frustrated with how we were playing sometimes and what people were doing, because obviously he could see things that we maybe couldn't see. So I think there was lots of times when there was lots of shouting and lots of colourful language and emotion that came out in some of the dressing rooms.
Yeah, definitely. I could only wish to be a fly on the wall on a Gus Poyet speech. Victoria Austin asks on Facebook, what is your defining moment in an Albion shirt, if you had to pick one?
Defining moment. So I think, oh wow, probably my overhead kick, because I think that's everything that kind of everyone comes back to. I think that's like, I'd say the most positive moment. And then I think me rupturing my Achilles was my defining moment in how the rest of my career kind of went with Brighton. I feel maybe if I didn't get injured, I think my trajectory with Brighton would have been following them wherever they went. But as I said earlier, it's life. These things happen in football. Major injuries occur. For me, it was just one that kind of sapped maybe what part of my game that I needed.
Yeah, something I wanted to bring up with you actually, Craig, because I've been watching the Welcome to Wrexham documentary, and I remember a game, an FA Cup game, Brighton versus Wrexham at the racecourse, and I think it was a couple of weeks after you got your big black eye, and I remember it went to penalties, and I remember saying to my mum, I really hope Craig doesn't take one because he's only got one eye.
yeah.
That was a moment.
yeah, I remember that. That's because my kids always ask me, like, did you take any penalties and like what was it like and stuff like that. And I remember the black eye because it was at home to Bristol City. I think I went down the wing and I think the centre half's thumb basically went in my eye. So I was quite lucky. I don't think it didn't blind me. And then I had a huge black eye the next couple of weeks, and then to take a penalty. The thing is, it was for me. My penalties always I would just smash the life out of it. So if I had my eyes closed, I still feel I could have done that down the middle.
Do an Ivan Toney no look penalty.
Oh, that's like phenomenal. Like it's amazing confidence. It's amazing technique. It's an amazing it's an amazing skill to have, because obviously if you can watch the keeper and then strike the ball wherever you want it. And then obviously he hasn't missed a penalty, and he's been very, very successful at it. And hopefully he doesn't have to take a penalty in the final. Hopefully he doesn't go that far, but I'd back him to take one and score one.
With the black eye, did you use that as your dark arts for the next few games? Did you go to the defender and say you should have stood the other guy?
No, I didn't use that one. Maybe I should have.
Yeah, that would have been good.
As a fan, I'd love to know, what's it like? You got a penalty shootout and you've got to walk all the way from the centre circle to the penalty spot. The keeper's trying to mess with you, trying to mess with your head. What's it like? What do you feel like?
I think that thoughts go through your head of like what you should be doing. Like sometimes you're looking at the goalie to see what he's doing. You can hear the crowd. I think the boys at the top level, it will still affect them. Like it doesn't matter how good, how mentally strong they are, especially if it went to penalties on Sunday. It will be very, very, like they would have to be mentally strong. And I think at that importance, I think, and after that amount of minutes as well, you'd probably have a little bit of jelly legs, because like for us playing, it's like getting through next round of the FA Cup, and like it's important, but like it's in the aspect of it compared to going to a Euro final and maybe have to step up to take a penalty. Then there's a country on you. Then like the history of like how Saka gets it at the moment for his miss, like all these things are remembered, so there'll be added pressure. There maybe be a little bit of jelly legs, but again, it's like it's being bold, it's going up there and having like the Lewis Dunk attitude of like, if I miss, I miss, and if I score, I score. Like that's how you have to see it. You have to try and be as relaxed as you can in those moments.
Yeah, the David Batty attitude, just whatever.
I took a penalty the other day in a charity game, and I missed twice.
Oh no! Oh, twice.
So I think I need to take your striker programs, Craig, and improve my penalties a little bit.
We can help you out there.
The next question is actually about a charity game from Julie Marriott on Facebook, and she said, "Did you enjoy your charity game at the Albion Legends? And it was a great goal you scored."
Yeah, no, I did. I really enjoyed it. Like it was nice to play. Obviously, I don't play hardly as much anymore. It is more charity games, so it was lovely to come down and to see a few of the old faces. Obviously, it's great for the charity, and it's just nice to kind of get a run out, and obviously to score is always nice. Always have that feeling of putting the ball in the back of the net. I think I might be down for another one. I think Russell Martin has got one for his charity. So I think that might be the 4th of August. That I think it might be Burgess Hill. But I'm coming down with that to play in that. I think there's a few of us playing. I think Crofty's playing. I think Russ might be playing. I think there's a few others that will be involved. So that should be a real good day. But I enjoy it. I like to get back out there. The mind is still sharp. The body is not where I'd want it to be playing. But it's always good fun to just get the boots on, have a run around, and then realise that doing striker coaching is probably better for me now.
Brilliant.
No, so I'll pop up and see that. I'm hoping to move up to Burgess Hill. So 4th of August, I'll come along.
Oh, amazing. That'd be great.
We've got a question here from Chris Geddes on Facebook. Were you disappointed that you didn't play in the regular front two partnership?
Yeah, I think I am. I think I really enjoyed playing in the front two. There was so many options in the front two, coming short, going long. There was so many opportunities when you played in the front two, and obviously never to have played with Leo properly, I feel was a real disappointment. I felt like we would have had a great partnership together. He was a fantastic player, leading the line by himself, but I felt maybe with me running off him, I think we would have created havoc and scored a lot of goals together. But obviously, I think that at that time the football was transitioning. Gus had his style of play, which is more one up front and probably very similar to how football is now, with the vocal centre forward and the two wide men off him. So there was never really an opportunity for us to play together, which I felt was a shame. But obviously, he had his philosophy and the way he wanted to play.
Yeah, obviously we got that one moment between you and Leo towards the end of his career at Nottingham Forest, which, you know, everything that happened before, don't care. We got that moment, so I'm happy for that. Dave on Twitter, he hasn't got a question, but he says thanks for the boot, which he still has mounted on his cabinet, proudly displayed. And one last one from Harry on Twitter. I changed this one a little bit, Harry, so forgive me if I've missed the question, but it says, if you could choose one player to have played with after your time at the Albion, who would you pick?
Wow. Do you know, I've enjoyed. I'd like to have played with Glenn Murray. As a centre forward, I think we would have worked really, really well. As a target man, as a centre forward, as a hold up man, he was fantastic. He done an amazing stuff with Brighton, and obviously to scoring in the Premier League, it was great to see. So I think us two would have had a great partnership. So I would have enjoyed, I think, in playing alongside him if we had the opportunity.
Do you think, and this might be a bit of a tough question, but do you think, had Glenn Murray signed an extension with us before he went to Palace, and the club still would have contacted you to sign you, would you have still signed knowing that Glenn Murray was there?
I think so. I think obviously, I think if Glenn was there, then obviously speaking to Gus, it would obviously dependent on if he was looking to play with two or he was just wanting to play with one striker. Yeah. But I think if Glenn had stayed and Gus's plan was to play two, then I think I still would have come. As I said, Glenn had a fantastic season. That season I signed, so I think it would have been great to have had both of us with confidence, both going into the new season together. I think it would have worked really well, but maybe that was in a different future. That was
the alternate universe.
Amazing. Imagine
we would have easily
you and Glenn up front. How many goals that would have led to, you know?
No.
That would have been lovely. Craig, just before we sign off, I'm going to embarrass you. So I just want to pay tribute to the guy that you are, because as a youngster, I was just starting out in my journalism, whatever I wanted to do, and you gave me my first ever interview pitch side at Crawley in a pre-season friendly. You've also been kind enough to come on this podcast twice, which I'm so grateful for. As I said before and embarrassed you many times, you are my all-time favorite Albion player. So it's such an honor to have you on, and I just want to really thank you for giving us your time today, and hopefully have you on for a hat trick on the Albion.
Thank you for having me, and I appreciate it. And obviously, I watch from afar and I see how well everything's gone, and obviously how well it's progressed. So it's really great to see. And say anytime you ever need anything, or say for me to come on, or anything that you want me to do, you know, I'm there. So all you got to do is ask.
Top man. Thank you, Craig. If you just sort of let us know about your podcast one more time before we sign off.
Yeah, so I'm going to do a podcast on strikers. Obviously, I'm just finding the way to do it and how it'll go down, and obviously I'll put information about it. And it's just hopefully an educational but kind of enjoyable listen. about what strikers go through, like what different types of strikers do different things, how they have their little, as I said, dark arts, how they go about their goal scoring droughts, just everything that you'd think a striker does that you see on a Saturday that looks very, very easy, how they go about it and breaking it down. So fans, to like kids who are listening, semi-pros, pros that want to get better and improve their game, they can take this information and apply it to their own performances.
Perfect. So we will, of course, update our social media as soon as that podcast hits socials, and be sure to give it a follow. It's going to be a really interesting listen as well. And, of course, Craig Mackail-Smith's son's segment as well, which I'm really looking forward to. As I say, I'll get you that Kitman's number. Definitely have him on it. It'd be great. We'll sign off the Albion Obsessed podcast today. Hopefully next time we speak to you, it will be on the back of an England Euros win. Here's hoping. How do I focus for the next 3 days? I do not know. Anyway, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.